Welcome to the Phil and Cory Show, where we tell the story of American small business success through the mentorship of key people. A fresh look inside business every Tuesday and Thursday at noon Central Time, live on Facebook. And guys, don't forget about that YouTube channel. Please subscribe there. My name's Dylan, and we've got...
Well, I'm Cory Myers with Lubbock Consulting.
And as always, I'm Philip with Robb Technology Group.
Well, today Philip is usually interviewing, but we're doing a little bit different these last two episodes. Dylan and Philip interviewed me last time, and now it's time for Philip to be interviewed. So he's on the hot seat today.
Yeah, they forced me to do this. There was nothing voluntary about it, I can assure you.
Well, I tell you what, we are grateful for Dylan because, Pecan Ridge is keeping us in business with a sponsorship. Guys, go get pecans and gifts over at Pecan Ridge. You can find them at pecanridge.com or give them a shout at 806-794-2022. They've got all the gifts and treats that you could ever want. They do great corporate sponsored gifts. So if you've got clients that you want to send gifts, they will send those gifts. They will deliver those gifts if you're in the area, and they'll send them through the mail to your clients. So get with Pecan Ridge and get your clients some gifts. Great corporate gift giving program with Dylan.
But hey, if that person is allergic to pecans, don't worry, because we have another incredible sponsor, All Flowered Up 2. Hey y'all, if you need flowers in Lubbock, don't even do it. Y'all know what to do. Call or click All Flowered Up 2. They have been serving the Lubbock community for I don't even know how long, but a while now, guys. And they treat their customers right. Seriously, if this gift store is telling you to buy flowers from a florist, you know they're going to treat you right. So allfloweredup2.com, or of course, 806-993-0078. Again, if you need flowers in Lubbock, y'all know what to do. Call or click that All Flowered Up 2. Phil, I am so excited to hear what you got from us, man. So
Absolutely.
First up, I gotta know, because I think this is the thing that everyone wants to know. You worked for Google. Yeah, you are that serious about these things. What was that like? Just go. I gotta know.
It was interesting, man. California's a big culture shift from West Texas. I was not ready for that. Massively different, kind of like foreign country different. I wasn't really ready for that. I didn't understand cost of living either. It was a bunch of fun. There was definitely, I think the thing I missed the most about it was every person that worked at that company was the best. So it was really cool to meet people. It didn't matter if they were a graphics designer or one of the welders that worked on the self-driving cars, or even a janitor. Whoever you saw up there was good. Not only good, but smart. And so you had a significant advantage talking to these people because they always understood it very well. You can always understand it very well, and people like that tend to explain things in a very short and direct way. And kind of when you're around a whole bunch of people that can do that and communicate in that way, it's pretty astounding, because you can ask a question, somebody can explain it to you and give you exactly what you need to hear, just like that, and you can move on to the next thing. Whereas if you Googled it would have taken you 30 minutes, and that's just a really inspiring place to be, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with Google. They hired the best, right? So if you work at Google, you are top of your field.
And that's not to say that there's not really other talented people other places in the valley. I know I met some guys from Yahoo and Symantec that I used to hang around with, and there's just a tremendous amount of talent out in the valley. In Silicon Valley, you just have people that have been dedicated there. You have some people that have studied their whole life and fought to get a U.S. citizenship just so they could go work in Silicon Valley. And
absolutely,
that's really cool. A lot of really cool people out there.
Yeah, and those people are Silicon Valley, and And I think a lot of places around the country, they try to hire the best people, and they get drawn. Those best people kind of get drawn out there to California because of the amount of capital they have to spend on employees, right? But that doesn't go to say that some business out in Kentucky can't hire the best people. And people like you used to work at Google, so now you own your own company. Tell us a little bit about how you got from Google to owning Robb Technology Group.
Well, I've always kind of been an independent type guy. My dad is an accountant, and so he always had like some type of side gig or something that he was like a little small business idea. Or I know he did some stock market trading back in the '90s and the dot-com booms, and so he always had something else that he was going on. And I noticed his passion for whatever he did by himself, something that he could kind of touch and be like, "Yep, this is me." I noticed how much he enjoyed that, and kind of, most kids want to follow kind of what their parents did. I thought, hey, if my dad can do that, maybe I can do that, because that's really, really cool. Being able to put your hand on something and say, yeah, I built this. That's always kind of been a big motivator to me. I actually had a company in college. It was back when, like, repairing cell phones wasn't a huge deal. It was kind of a rare deal. There still wasn't a lot of businesses in that marketplace, and I rented like a 100 square foot little office for like $200 a month, and I started fixing cell phone screens. And then while I was out in Silicon Valley actually working at Google, I was helping a local doctor with his practice, doing all his IT. So I'd always kind of like done stuff by myself. It wasn't just like this wake up one day and say like, I think I'm gonna go run off and do this.
Yeah, so it's a little bit more intentional than just starting a business, right?
Yeah, and to me, the biggest thing I think that drives me to be an entrepreneur is the freedom. I'm kind of for whatever reason, it's just very difficult for me to do something. If you say, hey, you have to do this right now, and give me no other options, I kind of feel trapped, and it really hurts me as far as being creative and like getting passionate about something, which is when I can get the most work done, obviously. And so being able to say like, okay, I can make my own decisions. I can manage me. I know that if I say, man, I'm not feeling it right now, I'm going to take a 2-hour nap. It doesn't mean I can't do that. I can do that. I know I still have to do the work. I may have to stay up later, but having that freedom in my schedule was a huge benefit to me, and that's kind of really why I wanted to be an entrepreneur, was just being able to kind of be the director of my own life.
Absolutely.
Do you think that freedom is such a big driving force behind your move to start Robb Technology Group? Because of course, technology nowadays especially is really what gives the freedom to most business owners to do what they love to do and what they want to do. Like, technology is supposed to be some freeing aspect of your business, so you do have the freedom to go and do whatever it is you want to do. But a lot of businesses find that technology is actually the part of their day where they get, the most bogged down. Like, it's not as freeing as it should be. But your group is out to kind of change the way that is all done. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that and how you set people free from their technology?
Yeah, so it's a lot. It's kind of along the lines of like what Cory does. So if those of you who are just randomly listening right now, Cory is a management consultant. Is that the right way I'd say it, Cory?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like what Cory does is, he sits there and just breaks it down into like checklists. He's like, if we're going to use an airplane analogy, it's like, okay, how do you inspect the airplane? How do you start the airplane? How do you do that? A lot of people are, obviously not in aviation, but, in business, they're kind of like, it's something as simple as like, okay, how do you open your store in the morning? What do you do before you turn the lights on? Are you going to have your employees sweep? Well, those little things are going to get just completely forgot if you sit there and don't have a list. And so Cory goes through there and kind of lists stuff out. So I have to kind of do the same thing. When you look at a business, what IT does is any problem that you can carefully describe and capture inputs, we can create output for you. So if you're like, hey, I'm a law practice, and geez, it'd be really great if I didn't have to remember all my clients by looking through my folders and seeing what's filed there. It's like, okay, we have some room for improvement. I know what process we can work on right now. So every business has these processes, whether they know it or not. Some of them are more defined than others, but essentially what we try to do is say like, okay, well, which one of these processes can we just remove whole sections of it by plugging in a computer? Everything's just input and output. So if it's, for instance, hey, get this client, where are all his documents? Whether that be a doctor's office, lawyer office, massage practice, doesn't matter. You're going to have, a client, and you're going to want their be able to pull up their documents on the fly. So, how do you do that? And that's kind of the stuff I do. I go in there, I look at all the variables, I look at the business strategy behind it, because a lot of it does matter. You can set up a great IT infrastructure, but if you don't actually understand what the business is struggling to do and where you can help the most, you're kind of doing a disservice. I mean, there's a difference between an IT guy and a business guy, essentially, and I try to merge that line.
That's very cool. I think, what you kind of hit upon right there is kind of talking about what's your goal, what are you trying to accomplish, and how do we best use technology to make that happen for you. And when we go into a business or whatever, there's definitely, and that's one of the reasons we do the podcast together, is because we fit so well like a puzzle piece, because that's a lot of what I do is try to get those businesses and make sure that they're reaching the right solution. Their mission, vision, values, and goals are hindered a lot of times because you have to wear all these hats as a business owner. And what can we automate? What can we, when you build a team, and I talk about this a lot, your automation is part of your team. It's it could be considered a person. And so when you go in and you say, well, if I automate all this stuff, I'm going to learn all this software and do all this stuff. That's kind of what you help out with, right?
Yeah. Elon Musk on the Joe Rogan show said, like a business is kind of like a cybernetic version of yourself that you've created. That just kind of like does your bidding. It's like essentially
he's
like
got such a vision on things.
Yeah, like a giant robot, and I kind of like to think of like that. Like, hey, a business is just a collection of processes. It has people in it too, but like the real value in the business is the process. So, if you're looking, down that, so imagine if we're taking off an airplane and we're gonna go flying today. Maybe one of the checks is like, hey, go out and physically check the landing light or something like that. And it's like, so you have to keep getting out of your airplane or something, and it's like, oh man, this is a major inconvenience. Well, if you're looking down that checklist, objectively, you'd be like, man, if you had one cheat code, what would it be that you could, take some stuff off your checklist? And maybe it's like, oh, I just wish I had a mirror so I could see if my landing light was on, without having to get out of the airplane. Something that simple. And it's like, oh, okay, that's a cheat code that we can use in this business. And maybe it can be done in software. You could do the same thing and say like, oh, we'll put a temperature probe on that landing light, and if it's hot, we know the light's burning, right?
Absolutely.
So it's just kind of like looking through those processes and saying like, what is your business trying to accomplish? What are the roles of the employees? And sometimes businesses can lose an entire employee worth of work just because of how much they can automate. For instance, if you have a person that's just doing data archiving, like for large companies that have a whole bunch of paperwork laying around and they want to all archive that, well, geez, if you stick that all online, you still probably need a data curator in some of these large companies, but you don't need 3, because you can use a software for them to go look up what they need. They can find it themselves. It's like, would you rather have a library? It's more like a librarian rather than a data custodian at that point. And you can enable that with software in a way that most people will never be able to. So that if you're an executive and you say, geez, my property on 123 Anywhere Street, we're in litigation about that. Well, imagine just being able to go to one place, type in 123 Anywhere Street, and all of a sudden every single document that has had that written on it or has had that typed on it ever is right there. And then you just go, select all, send to my lawyer, done. It's his problem now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's something an executive could do, to be able to have that much access to your data. And that can be huge, Otherwise, in some companies, if it's all paper, that could take a week to process that request.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of business owners are, they're adapting to technology, but there's still a little bit of uneasiness about changing the structure of how their processes are put together, right? So what would you say is something that the business owners like they should adapt, or that what are they doing the most of right now to adapt into technology, and maybe utilizing your services or other IT services to do that, and what are they kind of fearful about?
So first, I guess the first part of your question, you'll have to remind me of the second part here in a minute.
All right.
You know, kind of how our company's evolving, right? There's obviously like a lot of businesses fit in nice little boxes, right? So like my dad has rental properties. That's a very nice little box that has a large subset of users that you would say would fit into that box. So there's a lot of software like AppFolio and I'm trying to remember some other ones. For rental properties, but it's not just AppFolio. There's a lot of businesses like this, and it's essentially like a buy my software, you will pay me by the month, and we basically have every tool you need for your business. I used one called Repair Shopper, and it was for like intaking broken computers, broken tablets, whatever, keeping all your notes inside there. You could text the customer directly out of the ticketing system, blah 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 blah. And they have the same thing for doctors. They have the same thing for lawyers. So like we're getting a lot more, every small business is worried about developing an app or something because they know software developers make money because what they can do is very powerful. So there's a lot of people that want that. So a lot of businesses really want to shy away from custom applications, especially because custom applications come with custom application bugs, which means you're going to be
custom application costs.
Yeah, so that's like, and for some companies that should be an option. Like I don't mean to at all say like, hey, you should never develop an app, like because some of them are just so simple, you can knock them out. But if you're talking about like an enterprise resource management system, then well, you're probably going to have to do some developing, and it would be so much cooler if someone just wrote some software that would work for like a whole bunch of doctors' offices or a whole bunch of lawyers.
Yeah. So what you're talking about, and just for the layman out there, is kind of what we consider off the shelf software that works for everyone in this industry. Or
it's just getting where those slices of the pie are getting smaller and smaller and smaller because these web-based businesses are super cool. They can run one server. I mean, they're going to run more than one server, but essentially they need one web server, like, and that's it. And then they can spin up all their stuff on AWS or something like that, where they're not even paying for the hardware, but by the month. So it's getting to like where people are understanding how big coding startups can actually produce income, and like, hey, it's like a property management company. It's like, oh, we're only going to take this much off the top. It's not a big deal, and that's kind of what these companies are doing. But they can do the work that one employee can do. So they can charge $500.
So what you're saying, break this down for me a little bit. Is so a small business owner, most likely, what are they doing right now with this technology?
I mean, basically, what it's doing is it's just enabling much better software that doesn't have to be custom to be written for businesses. And so a lot of businesses they'll have like an ERP suite, or they'll have these solutions in place, right? And they'll have just kind of patchwork stuff together. It's like, well, they don't technically do what we're using it for, but, it works. Yeah. And of course, and that's fine. That's how, like, software's worked for years, But now that there's these custom suites that are very targeted to businesses that a lot of companies can go find, like, I am a single guy that owns some rental properties, and I would love to have some software and some cool ways to track it. And it's like, that exists now. Whereas before, it's like, I hope you're really good at Excel. Or you can get this other random software that's just really just an accounting suite, and you can kind of track it in there, but you're not going to be able to put like maintenance records or anything like that along with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, absolutely. And one of the things that when I was up in Chicago, one of the softwares we had project managers, and they were like, well, maybe we should use Microsoft Project. Well, what they were using is a $400,000 a year software, custom software for accounting purposes, right? So throughout the project, they were tracking the project on how much money was spent and how much was invoiced. And that was kind of how they tracked the project is, okay, well, there's a big chunk when you order a large generator, there's a big chunk. Well, that doesn't mean it's installed. That doesn't mean anything as far as the timeline goes. So you could still be 6 months out from the finished product, but you've spent 90% of the budget on the generator, and then all you got to do now is labor and some other things, right? So we were using that. They wanted to maybe switch to Microsoft Project because that's really great for construction. Well, that's what this is we're constructing a new building, we're putting in a generator, and so that's Microsoft Project, right? Well, Microsoft Project was a little bit too robust and expensive for what we really needed it. So we ended up I ended up looking at 40 different softwares and picking an off-the-shelf project management software for that company, and it really ended up working out quite well. It was a lot less expensive than having this custom $400,000 a year software that was running accounting stuff, and it wasn't effective. So, the small business owners need the most bang for their buck. There's a lot of, construction, like you're talking about rental properties. There's a lot of off-the-shelf software out there that these guys can go online and pick up, right? So software as a service.
It's about, one of the unfortunate things about today's businesses is that IT does drive profits when you're applied to real business problems. And your small businesses don't have an IT guy. You don't have that driving force that's helping push that company and go, you don't know how many people we're reaching with our advertising. Oh, well, we can run analytics on that. I can show you. I can show you the cost per this, or whatever. Those things are really important. And having custom software, though, that's designed for an actual problem is, so that if you're a repair shop, just tracking all that information, making it very viewable to all your friends or all your coworkers, that's giving, a small business, big business tools. And I think that's like the biggest change that we're starting to see is really good software getting in the hands of small business.
I think that's one of the biggest problems, and maybe I'm like totally wrong on this, but is that like one of the big problems that you have, like when talking to business owners, that like they're kind of used to the software of the past where you just like, you kind of get it off the shelf, you hope it works 9 times out of 10, it really doesn't, and then like you just blew $400 and you're like, wow, like, but that environment has like completely changed, especially over the past like 5-6 years. I talk to a lot of business owners and they don't seem to recognize that. How do you like teach someone about the new ways that software actually helps people and the fact that it actually helps now?
So first, there's a big problem in IT, and the biggest problem in IT is that it's difficult to educate users. If most business owners that fight the change don't see the system, don't educate themselves on what the system can do, what its capabilities are, and furthermore how it can be deployed into your actual business. What things. Because if you just sit there and I say, all right, Cory, I'm going to put you up a ticketing system with all this custom stuff in there, and it'll even talk back to your customers for you and respond to emails for you. It's great, but if he doesn't understand how to use it, it's never going to work well, or it's going to be completely underutilized. And so the hardest thing to do with small businesses, generally because people are busy, especially with owners, they hate extra homework, but it's like, hey, you need to learn this software. This is literally going to be the heart and soul of your business. You have to do some training. You have to do the software. And then, so that's a hard sell to like tell someone like, hey, yeah, you can pay me a few grand. I'll migrate all your stuff over to this other solution. And by the way, you've got 40 hours worth of crap to do this week. So that you understand how it runs your business. It's like, they're like, are you serious? Like, but the thing is, like, if you don't get them to learn that solution, if you don't teach them what Google Suite can do, they sit there and they go, I hate it. And it's like, well, do you know how to use it? Has anyone ever shown you? No. Well, that's why you hate it. Like, most people like it's like Android people and iOS people. They're like, oh my god, I hate the iPhone. I have an Android. And the other person's like, I have an iPhone. I hate Android. And it's like, well, neither of you know how to use the other person's phone. Why would you hate? Of course you're gonna hate it. Like, it's gonna be a frustrating experience. It's like if you've never driven a manual car and you jump in a 911 turbo, you're gonna be like, I hate this. This is not a fun experience.
This is what people do.
But it's not that the car is bad. It's that you've got to learn how to interact with it.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that I help out with as well. And I feel your pain there because in the Lean Six Sigma framework, we have a thing called DMAIC or DMAIC, and one of the things that last little piece, that C, is control, the control phase. So you've implemented something, and now you have to control it, and what that means is to hone down and make sure people are trained and things like that. A lot of times these initiatives get, whether it's software or otherwise, these initiatives get put into place and nobody gets trained, and somebody says, I hate it, and guess what? Now you went back to what you were doing before, and that was the reason you changed it. It was detrimental to your business. And so having no software or bad software and changing it to new software and great software, it's just like that 911. It's not the software is not bad. It's just you need to make sure that you're going the full measure of onboarding into and getting your employees and managers all onboarded onto how to use the software effectively. And so I definitely feel your pain on that.
The biggest point is that these aren't decisions that your accounting clerks need to make. Like, they don't need to be the ones designing this process. Like, sure, they need to be in the meeting because they're the ones that understand it the best, the actual ins and outs. But, telling the owner, like, you need to, I need time with you to design how this accounting system is going to be implemented in your business. Because or else, like I said, everyone's going to hate it. And if the owner of the company you just sold this solution to, all his employees are coming to you and saying, I hate it, what do you think they're going to think of you? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there's a great
if you make their lives easier, which is what the software is supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
And you tell, like, once you educate them to the point where they start seeing the light, like, it's like the employees that are actually going to be utilizing the software, like say in accounting and AP and AR people, they start seeing the light and they're going, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. Oh, I don't have to do this. And you start seeing that, and they actually start noticing that, hey, that thing that was 12 steps for me, to go find a customer and pull up an invoice, that was 12 clicks. Now it's 5. It's going to be harder. Even though it's 5 clicks, it will be harder the first few times. But essentially, once they start doing it, it's kind of like learning to play basketball. You start dribbling, start shooting. Every time you do it, it's a little faster, everything a little better. It's the same thing with using that software, and they start going, oh, man, this is a lot faster.
Yeah,
this
absolutely.
is a lot better.
I think efficiency gets better over time.
Yeah, and one thing that surprised me, actually, is with coming up with some of the technology solutions for our company, I thought, talking to you, Rob, or talking to some of the other people that we used before knowing you, going in there that I would have to know, like, exactly word for word what I needed, like from a technical standpoint. So, like, I don't know anything about coding. How am I going to verbalize what I need done to where they're going to know exactly how to make that into an algorithm? You guys know how, that's what you guys do. Like, you guys just take plain Jane verbiage, English language from a guy like me, and you turn it into a computer program or a software that actually works. People don't need to know the technical verbiage in order to get their software solution. You actually do that for them. That's what you're there for.
Yeah, and it's also just like knowing what your capabilities are. What can we get done with software? What is, we don't want to shoehorn stuff. That obviously, like, is never a fantastic solution. And the more you do it, like, it just makes everyone's life miserable. So, like, you have to, that's kind of one of the things I like about having some years of experience and seeing a whole lot of people do things a whole lot of different ways, is kind of understanding that, what's going to be a sustainable solution. what's going to be easy and where can I help?
Well, and another thing, over my discovery process, I found that technology is really great and it simplifies a lot of things. So I had a scheduling application, and it was really great to just be able to send someone a link and have them put themselves on my calendar. And for the most part, if I'm a solopreneur, I don't have a secretary to do that for me, to make my schedule and do all that, or an administrative assistant or any of those people. So, that's not something I feel comfortable asking my intern, who is here to learn about stuff. They're not here to, do my, dirty work or whatever, do my busy work. But so I had that automated system. Well, one of the things was pointed out is, hey, that's very impersonal. Like, you're not building a connection with your clients because you're not taking the time to email them. And it's like, yeah, but I don't have the time to email them. Well, then you need to find a different solution because that's one of the reasons that people aren't trusting you or something like that. So there's great ways to use software, and then there's, okay, well, we need to back off a little bit because of this or that. Where are you seeing business owners kind of struggle to adapt technology and put technology into place?
So marketing seems to be the hardest part. The things that I get asked by business owners is they're like, hey, I heard about those internets. How do we get on?
That Google machine.
I got one of those websites. What do we do about it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because that's literally like most of their education level as far as like information technology, as far as like what it can offer as far as marketing goes. Like that's generally where it stops. Because they're experts in their field, right? They're not experts in like IT. Mm-hmm. And so that's the biggest problem, or I guess that's the most difficult question to answer. Most of my technical experience, leads me to one answer. It's like, yeah, I know this is true. I can test it. That's correct. But when it comes to marketing, it's like, well, it's kind of like this. It's like the stock market. We can buy the S&P 500, and we can sure just basically make a Facebook post, make a Twitter post, throw some Google ads together, put it on a nice website, monitor our analytics. Like, just bowl down the center of the lane, essentially.
Yeah.
That's an option. But you can also do, like, a lot of craziness. And they, for some reason, always come to me and like, what do you think, man? It's like, oh gosh, and I mean, I'll manage some people's Google ads and, just watch their analytics, keep track of their website for them. I'll do stuff like that. Major branding stuff, I'm probably not the person to ask, but,
So what's my story brand?
Yeah. If you're sitting there just going, hey, I'm a dentist, man, I've already got we have a website, and I just want to do some of those Google ads, and I don't know a thing about it. It's like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I can definitely help you out there. That's kind of what most of those guys need. And if you go to those fancy marketing departments, typically they're going to want a lot of money just to manage your Google ads.
Yes.
So I tell them like, hey, if I review it once a month, I'll charge you for 1 hour a month. Just to review it, and we'll go over it once a month, and I'll send you an email with all of what it's done and its statistics. And
I think there's different levels of solutions for that. It's kind of like, I know all of us have bought a car in the past, and I need a car. Philip, you're gonna probably cringe when I say this kind of story, but hey, I need a vehicle. It needs to be able to haul a trailer. Nothing crazy, just maybe some furniture every once in a while or whatever. And I really don't care what's under the hood. I just and me personally, whatever. So you get the two types of salesmen. The salesman that listens to you and says, okay, he just needs a car. I'm going to just let him drive it, let him feel it out, and I'm going to cater to that he just needs a vehicle, right? Or you got the one that, probably like Philip, hey, this thing's got this kind of displacement, this kind of exhaust, this kind of blah, 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 and all this stuff, and you just yapping your ear off in the passenger seat while you're on your test drive. And you're like, man, this is too overwhelming. I don't know about this car because, I don't really know if I need a Hemi in this Dodge. I think I'll have to think about it, right? Well, you're kind of breaking things down and saying, hey, look, if this is what you need, we can handle it at the, the lower levels. But, there's all of this targeting and marketing and all kinds of stuff. that these marketing firms can do, and we don't really touch that, right?
Yeah, and I mean, one of the other things is, just there's different price levels that people are wanting to spend, and marketing companies, like if you're paying them to do your Google ads, for instance, you're paying someone's salary, essentially you're paying into that, and how many clients do you think you can shove down one guy's throat? So divide that by how many clients. Well, that's a minimum of what you're paying. So. That's why some of those just get very expensive, and I mean rightfully so, and they can provide some great results, as well. I don't want to say anything bad about that.
Yeah, I mean, what's the saying? If it's cheap, it ain't good, and if it's good, it ain't cheap. But at the same time, they are putting more work into getting that intricate system together so that it becomes more robust and brings you more clients, right? Whereas there's just a different levels. Hey, I want to spend $300. Okay, well here's a $300 service, and it's going to get you where a little bit more of a presence, SEO, whatever. But you're not really digging deep.
Sorry, you apparently set off Google. It was telling me about the United States Armed Forces.
How come? Why has the? I mean, maybe this you don't have like the answer, but how come the technology industry has been so lax on educating its customers? Because it seems like if the technology industry taught us how to do the simple things like Google ad, Facebook ad, stuff like that, there are so many things on the back end that do require the education that we would need you for anyway. I guess I don't understand as a business person how come so many things are like kept a secret by the technology industry. They're not. I know they exist out there, but like the education just hasn't been there from the industry that is responsible for educating us all.
Job security. I joke. No, I'm most of it. So I've been kind of shocked. The more and more I get into technology, and I'm talking to someone about some random product, and so somebody will call me like, "Oh, I need your help. I've got this monitor out of my closet, and it's a Acer, blah 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 blah. I can't get it to turn on." And it's like, okay, let me go download the instruction manual. And I'll like read the instruction manual out, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're so smart." And I'm like, yeah, I am. So I've noticed, like, because I learned this, like, I tried to learn Linux a lot. I use Linux quite a bit in personal projects and stuff. And it taught me one thing, which is if you have a problem, the very first thing you need to do is go find documentation. It could be an installation manual, an operator's manual, whatever. Some engineer at some point spent a whole lot of time like telling people like, listen, this is how you arm your security system or whatever. And I promise you that engineer knows way more than I do about the system or ever will know about the system because I support so many things. So 90% of the time it's going, where is the documentation? Like Google doesn't throw out ads and be like, best of luck, everyone. Hope you can figure that out. They write a lot of documentation. And generally, it's just the first step is learn how to in the world to get there. And then learning how to ask really good questions. So like, whenever you're going to go post on a forum or something, because you're totally stuck, if you just say, I was trying to do this and it doesn't work, what do I do? That's a terrible question. But if you say, hey, I'm trying to install this package on Linux, I was following these set of instructions, I'm on step 3 and I'm getting this error message, and no matter what I can do, I can't seem to get past it. Is there somebody that can help? That's a good question. You know what I mean? Because it's defined like everything that's going on. And like that's a lot of the support forums is like learning how to ask good questions so that people will actually respond to you. And learning how to like read through the documentation to try to help yourself before you just like randomly ask a stranger like, hey, I'm too lazy to Google this for myself.
I totally understand that though, because I am absolutely astonished with how many people still ask me for directions. I don't know. I'm doing Google Maps just like you, man.
It's amazing when someone tried to give me an address the other day and was like, "Let me tell you how to get there," and I'm like, "No."
No,
Like,
just give me the address.
Seriously.
Dude, do you think
was that me?
I think it was.
It was me. Well, that was that was like go straight
But
down.
no,
this
but I
road.
mean, it's like whenever someone does that, and it's not just you; it's happened to other people. But I'm just like, no. Like you look up, there are satellites like flying around the Earth at 17,500 miles an hour, and they talk to this thing, and it takes me to you. Like, just give me your street address.
Yeah, but again, that goes back to making it more complicated or making it less complicated. I mean, I think, and I'm not trying to defend myself on this one, but I am a little bit. But hey, go straight down this street, turn right, and then turn left on this other street. And just like, if that's simple enough, then you're there. You will see my car in the driveway. That seems really simple versus, hey, I'm going to give you this string of numbers. Please remember them so that when you get in your car, you can type it into your GPS. There's a give and take, right? So some business owners, and I know, I've dealt with roofers and I've dealt with doctors and I've dealt with all kinds of dentists and lawyers. And the small business owners, a lot of times they'll use like paper ticketing. Okay. Well, maybe that's a horrible way to keep records because your building burns down, you lost all of your records. But at the same time, that's the simplest way for them. And so how do we make a really simple ticketing system digital so that it feels the same? It doesn't add an extra step. It actually takes.
Yes.
And that's what I feel like a lot of business owners struggle with. How do you overcome that feeling of this is an extra step? I've got to type this into a computer now?
You're describing exactly some of the problems I've seen, especially in IT support technology, like ticketing systems. Okay, this is one of the ones I absolutely hate. They had one at Google that was called GUTS, Google Universal Ticketing System, and it was the exact same ticketing system for HVAC, for housekeeping, for IT support, and it was just uber minimal.
Yeah.
It was like super, super, super minimal. And so the amount of information a employee had to type in to get, most of it was plain English, and it was like, hey, I want, it was amazing. So they even have a furniture department, and we were like, my boss that was like, hey man, we got to get you like a coat hanger because I always came in with my motorcycle jacket, and I was like, that'd be sweet, and so literally he just goes to furniture, and or as like interiors or something, I forget what it was, like office supplies essentially, and it was like, hey, my employee comes in every day, he's got a motorcycle jacket, it'd be really cool if we could hang it up somewhere, could you all get us like a coat hanger or something, and like bam, sent. That's it. Done.
Yep.
And so, like, if you have now, like some other places that I've worked, it's like, oh, okay, well, now you need to set a priority. Like, I don't know. I don't work there. Like, I don't know if this is a high priority ticket. Like, they may be like, oh my gosh, coat hanger alert. Let's jump on this. I don't know what they're, and that was the thing in IT too. You have somebody that, their laptop doesn't work. That's a high priority thing for them.
It's a huge priority, yeah.
But in our service, we know that's a medium priority because only one user has a work stoppage. A high level of priority means that there's multiple users that can't work.
Oh yeah.
So then they see a priority and they're like, why am I a medium priority? And so like ticketing systems that require all this stuff and like anything that's an input process that just requires a lot of time to gather a bunch of data that will never be used anywhere in the process. And that's another thing when process planning comes in. It's like, what is the minimal amount of data we really need to capture in order to get this done?
That's interesting you say that because right before I did Pecan Ridge, I worked at Hilton Garden Inn at the front desk. And holy crap, the ticketing system, like seriously, like to call the head housekeeper and just be like, hey, room 331, TV's out, would be phenomenally simpler than the process that I had to go to fill out a ticket and figure out his priority status and make sure it goes to the right people. And then CC someone on that and then make, like it's just some of the
There's all kinds of stuff.
some of the software solutions that companies have figured out are not at all. So that's why I really enjoy what you guys are trying to do, because you don't just, okay, what is the end result? What do we need to do here? You actually think about the entire system and everyone in between in that system, so that the process as a whole is not only going to work, but it's going to work smoothly, and it's going to work in a way that is going to increase productivity.
Well, and I won't throw this this software under the bus, but by even giving you a lot of details, because there's literally one software for this industry. But I was in an industry, and I called up and I said, "Hey, I'm doing this thing, and I need to get here, right?" And they said, "Oh yeah, you can do that. I'll email you over a list of steps or whatever, right?"
Yes.
And it was like 28 steps. I'm like,
Yes.
I do this 50 times a day. I can't do 28 steps. I wouldn't be able to actually do the work that coincides with me logging it into the computer if it takes me 28 steps. There's got to be this. We've got to simplify that. And you're like, well, it's not important because you're the only one that's doing that. No,
one
I'm
of
not.
the things
I'm the squeaky wheel, and I'm the only one complaining about it.
No,
but,
so the thing is, a lot of companies don't want to spend money when it comes to IT support. It's a cost center. The problem is IT support is the face of the organization. Like, as far as the IT department goes, when someone says, "Hey, where's the IT guy?" they're not talking to the guy that's the server administrator. They're talking to a guy that is in his early 20s, or even younger than that sometimes, and this is their first big step in the IT field. The problem is, sometimes they don't want to invest very much money there. So you have someone that's a little bit unqualified, or maybe doesn't know as much as they should, and they don't have a good chain to go up, is what I've noticed. This is the worst part, is when, you have an IT support guy, for instance, and he's like, "Hey, who's writing the Windows updates? What days do those go out?" Well, we don't know.
No, yeah.
Hey, did we push an update yesterday to Microsoft Office? I don't even know who to ask, bro.
Yeah.
And I've seen that. I've seen that. I did consulting for a Fortune 500 company where that was the way it was. I had no idea who in the world was. It was like, "Hey, can we get like some notification about new versions coming out, major updates?" Like, that seems like something a support org needs to know.
Yeah, keep up on your current events, and that's what we did.
And I was even a software tester there. I actually tested the software updates, for Windows updates, and I still did not know. Yeah. Like, I knew how to run something up that pole, and I'm sure it would get back to that other side at some point. But like, if I just wanted to message somebody and be like, "Hey, dude, is this version still up to date?" Or something like just ask a simple little question. I don't know how to ask. And that's probably the biggest problem, is so you have so when you call it IT support.
So what do business owners do there with that problem? I bought a software off the shelf or whatever, and I call into IT support, which is for the software, right? So
dude, it's all about teams. It's all about a team. It's because you're never gonna, ultimately you'd love to put a server administrator in every one of those IT support positions that knows everything inside and outside, and but it's not really, depending on your budget, probably not feasible. So that's okay, but you've got to have that teamwork.
So what do you mean by that? How do you create that team? Like I said, if I'm buying this software, it's off the shelf, I pay $90 a month, or I pay $500 a month, and I call someone up and they don't really have the answer. What do I do as a business owner to get the right answer?
Well, with bad support, that's a good question. I've never thought about it that way. If I have bad support, I don't know. Generally, I just keep complaining.
Yeah.
I've had to do that with certain softwares where I'm just talking to someone that I know, this guy is not who I need to talk to. And
they're reading off a script.
Dude, and then you hang up and you call back and it's like, "Oh, we'll reconnect you with them." It's like, no.
With them, actually.
Or I've done this. You wait in line for 2 hours on hold. You get someone that's just absolutely terrible at their job, and you realize, and you ask them, "Hey, is there a higher tech I could talk to?" And they're like, "No, sir, there's not." And it's like, okay, well, you got a question. Do you fight through this, or do you hang up? and
Yeah, for
chance it
sure.
again.
Well, and you know, a lot of times
but the main
I'll go
thing
in.
to like
Oh,
to answer your question all the way, like uh, in IT, teamwork is like absolutely necessary because it's kind of like we're doctors for computers if you want to think about it like that. So we got a respiratory
absolutely.
specialist, we've got our frontline person, we've the skin, we got whatever. You got all these, and it's kind of like at Mayo Clinic. What do the doctors do? Well, no one doctor diagnoses you. You have a conversation with several doctors.
Yeah.
If that's the culture in IT, those entry level support guys aren't worried like, oh man, if I keep asking questions, this guy's going to think I'm an idiot. No, he's your friend. He'll back you up, and that's what he's there for. So you can call that server admin and go, dude, I don't know who to ask this question or whatever. And having that like mentorship and stuff like that is hugely important in IT,
Yeah, for sure.
because there's no way there's no way you're gonna know everything. There's just no way.
Yeah.
It's like being a doctor. I mean, there's the fields of study are so varied, and so I think it's really important to have that mentorship in IT support orgs or in any.
Well, cool. Yeah. Well, so I got another question here. One of the things I really wanted to know is in every industry and anything, like what is, I mean, and it could vary with software, right? But like, what is the basic necessities of a business in IT right now? Like, what do business owners, even at a 1 person to a 10 person team to a 100 person team, like what are the basic concepts that they need to put into place that will protect their business and make them, safe with technology, so they're not getting hacked, and then maybe connecting people within the business. What are some of the just basic kind of concepts that they need to pay attention to? And if they don't have that, they need to get it and maybe call you. What are some of those concepts that they need to pay attention to?
And you're talking about businesses in general, right?
Yeah, just business in general. Like I know I need an email address, right?
Okay,
So
yeah. Okay,
but like,
I
what
know.
else do I need?
I kind of call it like a standard configuration, right? Like, if I bought a customer a laptop, what how would I set it up?
Yeah.
And so like that was originally like to me a very hard question to answer, and then I kind of thought about it and I said, no, it's not. I'll just set them up how I set up my own stuff.
Yeah.
Like I already do all this. Like why don't I
Ask
just
the IT pro.
yeah?
Oh wait, that's me, right?
Yeah. And so it was like man, I don't know what my customers need. Like, technically there's no IT security like silver bullet. Like how well protecting them. Like do I scream at them and tell them to buy a $2,000 firewall? Like I don't. And so I just literally said, okay, well, you know what? If this is my place, well, how would I have it set up? I try to set them up at that level, and say like, hey, if you can't, if you want it cheaper, then we're gonna have to start cutting things I don't recommend, which is fine, you know. But there's a lot of basic things that are like, okay, well, do you have a data backup strategy? If your place burns down, your computer gets struck by lightning, whatever may happen. What is your process there? If God forbid lightning strikes your business tomorrow morning, and every computer's got smoke pouring out of it, what's your strategy? What are you gonna do? And it's okay if that strategy takes a while. Obviously disaster recovery isn't something that just happens in 45 minutes. It can, depending on your business. There are ways to actually go around that and do like run to Best Buy, go buy some Chromebooks, and we're good to go. But most people are gonna have a little different strategies. But having something where it's like, well, if everything goes to hell in a handbasket tomorrow, the data's backed up here. We'll have to reinstall this. We'll go buy equipment from here. Cool, we're up. Versus going like, oh, well, wait, I didn't know that was saved on my hard drive and it's gone now. You don't want those types of surprises. Having antivirus software and a solid set of security software goes a long way. I sell ESET Smart Security, works on Mac, works on PC, works on Linux. Absolutely fantastic software. Doesn't alert the user a ton. Doesn't make the user make a ton of decisions. It'll do 90% of it for itself. But it has a lot of advanced tools so that whenever it's blocking something it shouldn't be or something like that, it's a very easy suite once you have the kind of the knowledge and the training over it to go in there and stop it from doing things that it shouldn't be doing and making sure that it's not allowing things it shouldn't be. That's probably a big tenet of it. The other thing is just 90% of IT security, like if you want to be the best, yeah, making sure your stuff's up to date is probably your biggest goal. Obviously, as exploits, are written for software, and software becomes very hackable. The people who wrote that, Microsoft or whoever your software vendor is, they're like, oh, well, that's not cool. So they write an update. Well, if you're not updating it, and then I scan your computer and I'm like, oh, he's running that version? Excellent. I don't even have to write code. Like, I'll just copy and paste someone else's. So like 90% of it is just, for the love of mercy, update your stuff. And a lot of people think that's Windows Update only.
Like,
but
sorry, 4 hours, gotta update.
But yeah, I mean, you've got Cisco boxes, you got your Cisco switches, your routers, your whatever it is, even your home router. Those things have software updates, people. And like, and a lot of IT orgs suffer from exactly what Cory fights, which is like no processes. And so it's like, hey, well, yeah, we maintain our servers, and it's like we have this checklist, and it's like, okay, great. When do you update your Wi-Fi access points? Well, if it's not on the list, I can promise you when it gets done, which is never.
Is there, on the flip side of that, are there things that businesses like have it stuck in their head that they have to do from a technology standpoint, and like, guys, you really don't honestly have to do that?
My pet peeve is keeping things in file cabinets. My parents like keep a paper copy of everything, and I'm like, watch this, scan. Oh, look, it's on my Evernote account.
Yeah, well, and there was a study in, I believe, I'd have to really think about it, but it was several years ago when I was actually talking to somebody, and that's what they did, is everything was on paper, nothing was digital, and they had 4 filing cabinets. And I actually did some research, and filing cabinets, just keeping them up to date. If you've got an employee that's doing paper and they're filing things and they're taking things out of file, that process alone, each filing cabinet can cost several $1,000s a year in labor costs because of updating and throwing things away that are out of date and things like that. For a small business with maybe 8 employees and you got 4 filing cabinets, you're looking at anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000 in labor costs per year just on the time you spend putting things into files. And when you could just make it digital, and there's a lot of times where the client comes in and fills out a paper copy in the lobby, right?
I hate that.
Well, instead you get them an iPad and it's already digital and it's already there.
That's a huge one. That's a really good thing for most businesses. If you're giving someone a clipboard and a piece of paper and then having someone type that out, you are an idiot.
Well, okay. Well,
now, if that's the way, I mean, you should really sit down and think about that. How much is that person's time worth a week? Sitting there typing that out, even if they're $15 an hour. You are spending so much money. If you're like, oh, I don't want to buy an iPad, those things are like $500, and I'm like, dude, you spend that every week filling out those stupid paper forms.
And everybody, and see, here's the other thing. Everybody's got one of these right here, and if you have a little website with a form on it, they can go in, log in on their phone. You just put, hey, go to this link. You may even have to hand them a piece of paper, but go to this link and fill it out on your phone.
Yep.
They're not going to misspell their name. They're not going to misspell, or, they type in their addresses 17789 or whatever. Well, when you go to transcribe that, when your administrative assistant or when your person in the doctor's office goes to transcribe that, they may put in the wrong address. Right? Well, the person that's filling this out on their phone or on your iPad or whatever, they're not gonna, mess up their address a lot of times. You get every once in a while there's a typo, right? But for the most part, they're gonna put all that stuff in there. You don't have to transcribe it. It's all digital. It's already there, and it costs you a couple $100 for the iPad, and then maybe some time to set up a form, and you're all good. And maybe hire Philip over here to put some security into place with your Wi-Fi network. So when they're putting that stuff in, you are following the HIPAA laws and all this other stuff, right? So, I mean, it really does make sense on my side to have a process like that eliminates that transcription and eliminates the extra effort from an employee. And And then on Philip's side, like he said, it's just I won't use his words, but really something to think about. Really try to eliminate some of that paper out of your office.
Yeah, that and just the taking the I don't know, but I'm a terrible organizer, and there's no effort needed when it's digital. With like the search functions that we have built today, that are absolutely outstanding. You don't even need to put a name on the piece of paper because it'll use optical character recognition and read the entire document. So
Yeah.
and it's almost they're like, oh well, how many folders should I put it in? How should I organize it? It's like the minimal possible. The only things you should be organizing it by is things you can't search by, and maybe you should be putting tags on those documents so you can search them. And it's absolutely unbelievable from a document, and then the amount of security you can put on as well.
Oh man, let me tell you about this software. I saw this last week. There is a huge, huge firm, and what they do is they have a list of resource URLs or links. And so you have to, as an employee, you have to remember, okay, well, I'm looking for this. This is the name of that website. And you just type it in the top and you can search that website. Well, what does that website do? I can't remember what website that is, but they do, let's say IT stuff, right? So let me find them. Well, who's the IT guy? Oh man. So you got to just scroll down this huge list. There's no tags. You can't tag that link and say it's IT or, hey, I want some pecans. Let's go down the list. Well, they don't have pecans in their name for some reason on their URL or whatever. I don't know. And so I'm going to type in pecans and I can't pull anything up. Well, that's exactly what you're talking about is putting tags on things and making put what we call in the industry metadata, right? So just having some kind of software where you can look stuff up. It's super easy these days to have that process. And so that was a huge company. They are worldwide and they are using this software that's just incredibly mundane. I mean, I think they just updated it too, like last year. They probably paid someone to update it, lots of money, and I was just like, "Wow, guys, this is insane."
But it's also where someone like you kind of comes in, Cory.
Yeah.
Because if they're not putting tags on like documents, let's say they're going to a paperless office, right? The person inputting the document may not know what tag to put on because they don't know how it will be searched because they're not the person that's going to be searching for it, perhaps.
True.
So it does come down to a lot of process management where we say, okay, well, this is a drilling report, let's say from an oil well. Okay, well, why would I need to find this later? Well, and if I was, what would I know about it? Okay, well, we always talk about things with their well number, let's say. Oh, okay. Well, we can put that in a tag. So that if I say well number 12345, tell me everything about that, it pulls up all those documents because maybe that's how I'm going to query it, or maybe there's like problem analysis or something, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I can type in that and then problem, and bam, it'll show me all the problem analysis reports from this well.
For sure.
Yeah, stuff like that. It's a lot about processes because the IT IT can only solve problems where the process already exists. Or if a process will exist, obviously. All we're doing is providing shortcuts. It's not magic. It's just a computer with zeros and ones that can do some really fast mathematics and store data in absolute perfection and then recall it with absolute perfection. That's the only things it can do. It can't do anything magic. It can basically copy and paste.
Well, so let's summarize this little segment that we were talking about. You say basic for businesses. You definitely need to have a plan for your data backup, right? And then cybersecurity is vital.
You don't actually have to back up data because, like we talked about before, some people have completely web-based services, so their computers are nothing but a Chrome box, essentially for them. But yeah, every business
that's how I run my stuff, right? I mean, I was able to give you my computer last week because everything's on Google Drive.
Right. Yeah, and so some businesses they don't need a backup plan. It's like, bro, everything's in Google Drive.
Well, that's the backup plan. You already have
right.
one.
Yeah, and it is. But so not I don't mean to say like everyone needs to pay me $1 million so I can come do your data backup strategy.
Yeah.
No, some businesses it's really like I think you're good. You're gonna have to figure out
Absolutely.
go to Best
As
Buy
long as
and
you've
pick
got
up some
something
computers.
there, you've got a data backup plan, which is for me Google Drive because I'm a solopreneur, and I know you use Google as well. I know we've got some friends that use the OneDrive and Dropbox and all
iCloud
kinds of
Drive.
other
I don't know
stuff.
if iCloud actually has sharing capabilities. I don't know.
iCloud does have some sharing capabilities, but it's more. I've seen it more with
It's more for like a
like
personal
pictures and
user.
things like
Yeah,
that. I've never had a professional interaction with iCloud.
Can I send it to
So,
you? If my yeah, that's that. You know what? That's a hilarious but interesting data point. I have never had someone say like, "Can I share you that?" and like got an email from like Apple Cloud or whatever. Like,
iCloud.
hey, we've shared you a
You
file.
need to sign up for
I've never
iCloud so
seen
you
that
can
before
get
in my
this
life.
PDF. No, I've
In
never
fact,
had
I
that.
haven't seen anyone use. Well, I don't know. I have. Let me see. I have something. I use Google Drive, obviously, and I have 5.5 terabytes on there right now.
There you go.
So, like, I mean, I only use it, but whenever I've asked somebody, like, hey, do you have this or something, I think I usually get a Google link.
Yeah, it's usually Google. I do, yeah. Like I said, there's people that love Dropbox. There's people that love OneDrive.
Well, and I think most
But
of those
for the most
people-
part, the majority I get is Google.
So you got to be careful. Like, whenever you hear this, oh, I love this, blah, blah, blah. Generally, that means I've only used this, and I'm too lazy to go figure out how to use something else. 90% of the
I
time,
believe you.
that is what it means. When they
Yeah,
love
because
something,
I've used all of the.
I just
You
want to
mentioned
because-
Evernote earlier, things like that. I've used all of the different platforms, and I like Google mainly because that's what everybody else uses. So it's the easiest. If someone says, "Hey, here's a OneDrive," I'm like, "Man, I've got it,
Here
but
we go.
let's maybe set you up with because I can set up a private Google Drive for my clients, and we can just use that." And so that's what I do a lot of times. And
no,
so
but it's just frustrating when you get out of your comfort zone. So, like,
Yeah.
whenever I was growing up, I never had a Mac, ever. Never
Yeah.
had messed with Apple at all, and I hated them. And when I was at Google, I was lucky enough to, like, where you can pick to have a brand new MacBook Pro. So I did. And I forced myself to learn how to use it. It was not fun. It was miserable. But now, I kind of like Mac.
yeah.
And so what I found is
Only
there's a
slightly,
lot
though. You told me
less-
privately that you.
Oh,
not
no,
a fan.
hey, I just switched back to an iPhone, so but
I
I
know.
like switching back and forth. But I mean, Apple has like some pluses and some minuses. Windows has some pluses and minuses, just like
Absolutely.
iPhone does. And but the thing is, like, I like supporting them all. I'm also kind of just like a computer enthusiast, so it's kind of to me, it's like cool, something new and different, like awesome. Like, it's just shaking it up. But the
Yeah.
cool part is like once you
It took
learn,
me a long time to go from Tandy to compact back in the 80s. But, I made the transition.
surely you didn't have a Tandy.
I did have a Tandy, actually.
Did you
did.
for
Like a
real?
Tandy
I
1000?
did have a
What did-
Tandy
what
with
did you have?
a daisy wheel printer, and it was lots of fun. But I was very young, and there wasn't really a whole lot of functionality. I think we had to move up to the compact to actually get the internet.
So wait, was this
And
was this a Tandy PC clone, or was this like Tandy 1000 or before? Like, was this DOS based?
I honestly wouldn't be able to recall
Did it have a
model
mouse?
number, but it was very basic. There was not a whole lot of like Windows kind of style thing. It was you type in a command, it'll pull up the program that you want
Okay.
to use. So word processor. I don't believe we had a spreadsheet function. So it was very, very basic. Because again, back in the 80s, before the internet was really kind of a big deal. And 80s, early 90s, I would say. It was probably, I would say even early 90s. So we moved from Tandy to the compact, and then we I don't know what else we had, but I believe we stayed with compact. Maybe HP was next, or Dell. And then now we're here in 2020, and we're all online, and I got an iPhone, an iPad, and an iMac right in front of me. So,
Hey, man.
So it's
and
it's an
Apple
interesting
Watch
story.
here too. So
Yes.
Tandy Computer Corporation started as like Tandy Leather Company, and they made like leather products. Like,
Is it the same?
they
I knew there was a Tandy Leather, but I didn't know that
it's
was
the exact same company, and they got very, very, very rich, and they bought Radio Shack, and so they built a brand inside Radio Shack called Tandy, and that was where all the Tandy computers came from.
Oh.
And it was like the PS80 or whatever Radio Shack computer was kind of like what they had at that point, and then they went to Tandy computers. And
you audience members didn't know you were getting a history lesson today.
Yeah, and so that it was really popular for a while.
Carrie Mayfield has a comment. He says our first computer was a TI 99 4A. Is a T1? It's too far away from me.
Instrument.
And,
TI 99. Yeah, Texas Instruments, and then he followed by a Tandy 1000. So the Tandy 1000 was like that was their
huge
big,
5 megabytes.
Yeah, the Tandy 1000 was like a DOS clone or something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it had its own proprietary everything back in the day. It was right before they stopped building their own stuff. Like, they almost went the way of Apple, where it was like they're going to build their own operating system with their own little ecosystem, and they stopped that and started building PC clones when their profits started dropping off.
Wow, what a crazy trip down memory lane there. Well, tell us a little bit. So I want to recap this for our viewers so that we're really wrapping that concept up. Data backup, cybersecurity, processes. Put a process in place. Like, when do you update? When do you do things? And then try to eliminate as much paper as possible. And that kind of takes those filing cabinets out, right? What other real basics do business owners really need to transition to?
Okay, computers are expensive. You get what you pay for. A lot. If you spend good money on computers, it's like buying a Swiss watch or something. That's probably not a great metaphor, but kind of like that idea. If you buy good computers and you spend the extra $200 to $300 per machine to get nice quality hardware, it makes a big difference. But every business owner I know just is waiting for their machine to die to replace it. A lot of them. And the way big orgs work is you sit there and you say, hey, if they're an engineer, they get a new computer every 2 years. If they're a standard user, they get a new computer every 3 years. And if they're a temp vendor or contractor, it's every 5 years. Whatever it may be. You set up your standards and you stick to them so that you don't end up with people that are being drugged down by a slow computer. Yeah. In some small offices, it may be okay just to say, hey, if you have a problem, come to me. Yeah. But that's not really scalable. So, I mean, if you're much outside of 5 employees, you at least should have a budget that sits there and says, okay, well, if you have 5 computers, that's $5,000 worth of stuff, minimum, right? And so let's say it's got some nice monitors. Let's say that's $8,000 worth of gear. Well, if you bought it all at the same time, are you going to replace it all at the same time?
Yeah.
Who gets the first new computer? Are you going to wait till just it breaks? Is that okay with you? You should at least be budgeting okay, this computer costs me $45 a month.
Well, I think that's a good concept too. And I'd like to kind of go back onto my side of what I do as well. Is you think about some of the businesses in Lubbock, I know for certain, this is why I kind of feel like there's a lot of need for the small business help. They'll let their sign out on their, facing the road. It's got the lights in it, whatever. That thing is just weathered and beat down and just nasty because they never put back in sign shops every several years. I mean, the lifetime of that sign was probably 5 to 8 years. And if they would have here in 5 to 8 years, we need to put back some pennies. We need to save back just for that sign, right? And if we do that, then we'll continue to have good marketing presence from the road, right? And so some businesses are really good at it, and they know that they're going to keep that up. And some businesses don't plan ahead, and they look like, hey, we don't have a good paint job on the building, we don't have a good sign out front, things like that. And so if you think of it like, hey, this thing's got a lifetime, and we're going to need to spend more money later down the road to keep this up. You plan ahead and become intentional with your budgeting. It's very, very important that you do that, especially with the computers. And then the second part of my comment here is and I want you to talk about it, is talk about wait times on slow computers.
Yes.
Well, so especially if your stuff's old, modern computers are pretty quick. But I mean, as long as the biggest holdup with most computers is going to be your storage, your hard drive. That's exacerbated quite a bit if you don't have enough memory. But essentially, like, a lot of people don't like their jobs. Okay, you got to sit there and type in accounting information all day. Like, that's not exactly climbing the Alps, and exploring, right? Like, there's not much natural that we would do as natural human beings. We wouldn't do that. So, if you compound something that's unpleasant for an employee with an unpleasant experience via a computer, I promise you, you will not have good productivity. It is the worst experience. The experience is just terrible. So slow computers, I mean, it's typically not buying good hardware. Like, for instance, they still sell computers with spinning disk drives. We've had flash memory for a very long time. And I would never, I have 2 spinning disk drives in my computer. I literally just use it for archival storage. So if I'm moving a bunch of data around, that's the only reason it exists. And it's miserable to use it even then. But I wanted a low budget 4 terabyte solution. But I see people go out and buy a $500 computer and it's got a spinning disk drive in it. And I'm like, wow, to save $30 to $40, they didn't make that option. And that will be the very first thing that dies on that computer. That will be the only piece that has moving parts in that computer other than the fan. And it's going to significantly destroy that user experience. But the person has no idea about computers. And so they just see that 1 terabyte thing and they're like, oh, that's a big hard drive. Cool.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the caveats to that, and I'll let Dylan say his question here in a second, but one of the caveats is that not just the user experience, but, hey, I'm typing something and I've got to, and I think I just mentioned this to you, I got to go into the other room and wait for my computer to load something, go get a cup of coffee. I mean, like, I'm not productive while my computer is slow, right? So same thing with employees of any other company. If my computer's slow, then I'm not getting anything done. And it would have cost me maybe a couple $100 to get a new or a better computer, but now I'm wasting thousands of dollars in wasted labor costs because that computer's slow, right?
Well, and that's kind of like one of the things people point out. It's definitely something that's very difficult to get analytics on. It's difficult to get good data on it. I only can speak from personal experience because I don't really have data. I mean, obviously that's got to happen somewhere, right? But it's difficult to say if that's happening at a certain instance. I can tell you that humans, especially people our age, are very distractible. We enjoy kind of popping into something new all the time. It's kind of that exploration feeling we have. And if you get stopped in your thought pattern because you're waiting on the computer, that your brain is going to go, cool, what else can I be doing? And next thing you know, you're like on Facebook and you're sitting there and you're like, oh crap, I forgot about that.
Oh, I went down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, and it may not be that bad, but I mean, it's very annoying whenever I have an idea that I want to put into work on a computer. If the computer's slow, my thinking creativity around that is greatly diminished.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it's insane how much that really does affect productivity. Like, for example, if I'm just doing like a simple, I don't know, Canva mock-up for a Facebook post, if that thing takes like too long to load, I've already got like 100 different tabs open to the thing that I don't even need to be doing, and it's just from that like 3 seconds of load time. So when
it's like, I don't even have ADD, but this is giving me ADD, right?
Seriously though, right? I'm like, 1 second I'm like doing a Facebook event, the next minute I'm looking up substitutions for black beans, and yes, that actually happened one time. Like, seriously. So like, just from that 3 seconds of load time, I'm losing, I can't even imagine how many, probably hours at this point, let's be honest. So if you have a company, multiple employees, multiple computers, and each single employee is doing that every day, that is an insane amount of money you have just wasted when 4 months ago you were worried about, oh, should I do this $400 computer or $500 computer because I don't want to waste money. 5 months ahead of time, now you're losing like $400 a day to slow computers, and this is the part you don't care about. Like, it's just insane.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
good solutions don't have to cost a lot of money. Like, I'm a Lenovo partner, so I'm probably obliged to like mention them. But like, they have a P series laptops that are Think branded, so they're good quality laptops. They're stuff that if it breaks in 4 years and you come to me, I can get a part for it. From the manufacturer for that model, and they start at $500. So like business, I have people that'll tell me like, oh, I don't want to spend over $1,000, and I'm like, $1,000 is quite a bit for a computer. Like you can get a really good computer for $1,000, and people are shocked at that. And it's like, no, you don't need to go to Best Buy. Like for instance, the Lenovo ThinkPads, the P series as well. Like, but the ThinkPad series has a drain system under the keyboard, so you could spill water on it, and it drains out the bottom of the computer.
Okay.
And
Wow.
like when I start seeing that in computers, I'm just like, okay, like this is way over engineered, and I love over engineering. I love absolutely crazy complex solutions, and so like, people really think like that type of level of technology is excruciatingly expensive, and it's really not. Not nearly as much. And something with that, if you get a T series, for instance, they're $1,000 to start. But generally, that's going to come with a 3-year on-site warranty, which means you call support or your IT guy calls support. They go, yeah, we need to change out your keyboard. Okay, cool. And someone from IBM shows up the next business day and swaps out your keyboard, and there's no bill.
That's awesome.
So.
So for small businesses like for example, Pecan Ridge, we've got a team of 11 people. Maybe 3 of us use a computer. Everyone else is basically working on machines all day. I don't need an IT guy, right? Because it's just me basically on my home computer. What would I ever need an IT guy for? How am I wrong? Why do small businesses that aren't technology heavy per se, why do they really need that relationship with someone like yourself, Rob, Technology Group?
Well, all I do is I solve business problems. That's really what I do. I obviously maintain hardware and stuff like that. Somebody to call when your email doesn't work type thing. But to answer your question, I mean, you don't always need an IT guy. To be very honest, a lot of companies, but I always say like you don't need a plumber either, but you should probably have someone's sticker on your refrigerator just in case. You know what I mean? So there are businesses where it's like, no, you really don't need an IT guy. You're fine. But when your business starts getting to the point where time, you've got time is money, and you're getting busy, and there's a load factor there that's bogging people down. If you go through a busy season and all of a sudden that computer doesn't turn on, you may not have had an IT guy. But if you can pick up a phone and go, hey, someone's coming, that in and of itself can be something that's very important to a business owner.
Well, and I tell people all the time, it's, and my example is the accounting firm, right? The small accounting firm. Bill, his billable hour is $100 an hour. And if he's fixing the computer instead of working on accounting stuff and billing the client, he's actually costing the company money by doing that. Whereas you can call someone out that's an IT professional and fix that equipment with a lot more accuracy, a lot better. I mean, Bill's still got to look up things. He doesn't know exactly what he's doing because he's an accountant. That's his profession. That's his vertical, his T-shaped expertise is accounting. He dabbles in computers, but he's really not a computer guy. So when you do that, you're actually costing, maybe Bill takes 2 or 3 hours. So that opportunity cost was $300, where you could have called an IT professional out, and it may have taken an hour to get out there, but they fixed it in 15 minutes, and you're back up and running. That's
definitely part of it. The other thing is just, one of the things I basically sell is I sell uptime. So, how reliable is that computer system? It's kind of like, if you have a fleet of vehicles for your business, it probably behooves you to have a mechanic, unless you're, so that whenever something happens, they can look at it. They can do preventative maintenance checklists. they can do things like that. And that's essentially what we do with computers. You know, we sit there and go, okay, cool, we've got security software on there. If it stops working for any reason, it emails me. It doesn't bother the user, it emails me. They have backup software installed, and if it messes up, it emails me, not the user, me. And then all I have to do is go, hey, got a weird thing going on with your computer. Do you mind if I jump in real quick? Cool, great, I'm here. And also having that ongoing relationship where I can literally say, hey, Dylan, is it cool if I jump on your computer with you real quick? Cool.
That's actually something I find really unique about your company, is that you're not trying to sell every single solution to every single company every single time. You actually go into the business and find out what they need. And if they don't need anything at the time, you're totally cool with saying, hey, you don't need me, but here's my card when you do. So a lot of people think, oh my gosh, I'm going to bring the technology guy in here. He's going to want to sell me $5,000 computers, $2,000 servers, and like a $500 a month subscription service. Not with the Robb Technology Group, because you actually listen to your clients' needs and provide solutions based on that, not based on how much money you need to make.
I will take your money though. Let's be very clear about this. If you want to dump money in technology, I'm your guy. I will take whatever checks you will write.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
well, we all got to put food on our plates, right?
That's what I try to do. I try not to make things way too complicated, right?
Absolutely.
So what about this book, 0 to 1? Because you have been talking about this a lot, both in the Masters group and elsewhere. Can you just tell us a little bit about this? I know you're kind of reading through it. It sounds really interesting, man.
Yeah, so I got my dad reading it. I messaged him and I was like, hey, you want to like read a chapter to chapter together and we'll like meet up and like talk every night about it or something. And then like I got a message from him and he's like, hey, this is a really good book. You're right. I'm going to try to read it all today. And it's super cool. It's about a guy who was one of the executives at PayPal. And so he was there when they merged with Elon Musk's X.com, and he's also been involved in Tesla and a few other things. But he's a pretty impressive resume. But just the way he kind of talks about, he says, if you're a entrepreneur who understands that certain businesses are going to receive exponential growth, and the others won't. That's it. And it's so for instance, you could go start a IT firm, and you could own, with another partner, and you own 50%. It's like, oh, hey, that's really cool. Or I can go on my own. I can make 100%. Well, at the end of the day, what is the 100% of my company worth? Because if you were a very late hire to Google and you got offered 0.01%, that'd be worth like $33 million. So it's basically one of the points he brings up is like, hey, if being a monopoly is a symptom of being a successful company. And if you should always strive to be in a business or to create your business around the idea of exponential growth. If there's no way for your business to grow exponentially, there's no way for your business to ever be truly successful, and you're probably better off working for someone else.
Absolutely.
There is a couple mind bombs right there for you. Wow, Phil.
Yeah.
I actually did not even realize the time. I'm sorry, guys. There's been so much information. We just kept going. But before we absolutely wrap up with the show, Phil, how do people get in contact with you? How do people find you? Where you at?
So my website's RobbTech, ROBBTech.io. And obviously info at RobbTech.io, and then Philip at RobbTech.io. Our phone number is 806-224-4380. You can call or text that anytime.
Heck yeah, I like that. I really appreciate your guys' time today. I mean, seriously.
This was fun. This was awesome.
It always is, man. It really always is. Looks like our upcoming guest on Thursday is going to be Dalton Jansen from Salted Oats. And if y'all have lived in Lubbock for even a second, y'all know Salted Oats. So I'm really, really excited to hear their story being told. Hey, are you guys tired of your technology keeping you away from the parts of your businesses that you love? Like we were just talking about that. Let Robb Technology Group take care of your business tech so you have both the tools and time to focus on you and your business, from support to virtualization to networking to more. The veteran-owned Robb Technology Group helps you out with custom-made solutions, guys, that actually work. Call Phil right now. Do it right now. Pick up the phone. Call him right now, 806-224-4380. Stop working for your business and technology. Have it start working for you, because, guys, that's what it's there for. That's what we just heard him explain. And y'all know Cory, y'all know Lubbock Consulting since 2016. The venerable Lubbock Consulting has helped shape the way businesses approach by providing solutions that help their clients become more profitable, more accountable, and more efficient. If your business is struggling to grow, struggling to keep up with growth, or just can't seem to get its overhead down, give my man Cory a call or an email anytime. Cory@LubbockConsulting.com. Guys, another insane show. I'm so excited to do this again on Thursday. Thank you for
Dylan, thank you for hosting. Thank you for being our host today.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, we kind of switched some roles, so it was fun. Again, best show ever.
Best show ever every time.
All right, guys. We'll
See you
see
guys
y'all
later.
later.